anxious to step through the gate again, Major?
Yes, I am.
We all are.
You like us to bring back anything special?
No thanks.
Groceries, new outfit, flatware?
No, just yourselves in one piece, please. Dial it up. You safe.
Welcome to the Jumping Puddles podcast. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and or YouTube, and follow us at Jumping Puddles Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram, and Jumping Pud Pod on Twitter. And if you want to support our podcast, please check out our coffee. I am Sam, and with me are my fellow co-hosts Tor and Ash.
Hey!
Hi! And today we're talking about the episode Sateda. Ronon, John, and Teyla are captured in a village that Ronon previously stayed at as a runner, and which was consequently culled by the Wraith. Following a deal, the villagers turn Ronon over to the Wraith, who make him a runner again, taking him back to his home planet Sateda to fight for his life.
Dun dun dun!
Dun, dun, dun. Guys, we have a good episode. Oh my god.
I know.
We
And-
prayed for times like these. A good episode.
It's a Ronan episode to boot.
Fucking finally! After over seasons.
Jesus.
And Runner isn't even an only Ronan episode. It's half Ronan, half Ford.
True.
But this is a full Ronan episode, and it slaps!
It does. It really does.
And it's amazing.
Where to begin with all this goodness? I don't even know.
Yeah, I know. Where do we even start? Wait. I feel like it's an episode that, low-key, I feel like you almost, have to kind of follow the, beginning to end, because it kind of,
Yeah.
the order actually does kind of matter in this one.
I agree.
Other ones we can just be oh, whatever, just jump around. But here it's first, the opening scene with the team on the planet.
I think I said it before, and I'll probably say it again, but I feel like Atlantis has the best cold openings with the funny little team
Totally.
scenes. And this one again, there's so much already these, I don't know, these 60 seconds with them joking about all the planets looking the same, which is always a nice callback. And then one that cracked me up was that Rodney says something about oh, he's always worried, or he always has a bad feeling, and Teyla just goes, how do you live like that? It's oh baby.
Good question.
So cute.
I love them.
Also, damn, I don't know, something about Ronan just already being so stressed from the opening scene, when the camera pans up and he's sending us to the tree, and everyone's just giggling, goofing around, and he's something's wrong. I don't know, I was already oh, this is already making me sad. Or making me emotional. The fact that he's so on edge, because it's on the tip of his tongue. And maybe he has an inkling that it could be a planet he's been to, but he has no idea. So he's half present, half just stressed. And I was oh, baby.
So true, because you know that he and Teyla would totally be exchanging looks while they're teasing Rodney. So the fact that he wasn't in the scene is very telling. And then, of course, it all goes horribly wrong.
Okay. He was actually right.
Yeah. As much as it's supposed to be a serious, wow, the team is getting attacked, the decision to have Rodney get shot in the ass with an arrow was so funny and perfect for this episode.
What? Why, though, did this guy decide to shoot at Rodney's ass? He
was
wasn't standing that
nice
far
target.
away. He wasn't standing that far away, and I assume they all know how to use crossbows. What was going on with his aim? I'm looking at height differences and distances in general. I'm dude.
I think he got distracted.
He shot at what he was looking at.
Yeah. It's damn, bro, nice ass. Oh, shit.
You're thinking, what's most precious for his team?
Yeah.
How can I hurt this team the most?
Maybe he thought he had a better ass, and he's like, I need to get rid of this. He's like, I have the best ass in Pegasus. Like, I cannot have a competitor.
Destroying the competition.
Oh man, I think it's just so classic Stargate in a way, right? I feel like what Stargate does so well in certain episodes is just like balancing the tone. Especially in Atlantis, I feel like they will often just kind of make Rodney like the de facto like humor guy if like the episode's getting too serious. And you know, it does kind of piss us off sometimes, but I think in this episode it just works so well because it is like a very like tragic, serious toned episode, and just having those like moments of levity and like breaks when like you just go back to Rodney like crying and like half, you know, drugged out of his mind about his ass and just being like so fucking confused. And like David Hewlett, again, I feel like we're always praising him, but like I feel like I have to give him his 10s in this episode. Like he's just so good. And I was like watching him like in the scene where he's back in Atlantis and like Elizabeth and like the military guy trying to talk to him and interrogate him, and he's just like not there. I was just like, what a fucking genius. He just like nailed the tone so well. It was like, what direction did they give him? Like, I'm just so curious. Like, what is improv? Like, what's just like, I don't know. I was just so fascinated by him and Rodney.
Absolutely. And I think it works in this episode because he's not only the comedic relief in the episode, like he has his emotion or more emotional moments, or you know, where his feelings shine through the crassness and the the anxiousness and the sometimes obnoxiousness. I think it was just a perfect balance for sure.
Yeah, and it's not just comedic relief, it's all he's still working like on the problem and or like talking about Ronon or something, so that was the balance was there.
Yes.
He's not just the butt of the joke.
Yeah. Ouch.
Wink wink. I'm so proud of myself for that one.
That was pretty good. Excellent dad joke.
How long did you work on that one? Also, did they get new uniforms?
Yes, I was just gonna mention they're wearing their leathers this episode, which is for the first time, I think.
Right?
Hot.
They're looking very hot. All of them extremely.
That's the word I use. Hot.
Very hot. Like with the black,
yeah,
with the all black, it's just yes,
absolutely,
yeah, works.
Also,
really, really
I don't know.
well.
I love when SG teams wear black. Like even SG1, like when they switch over to black, I was like, oh yeah,
Hell
like
yeah.
especially, and I just feel like it fits Atlantis too, like the tone and everything. I'm like, yeah, they would be wearing black. Those emo little bitches.
Yeah,
yeah, and I like how everybody's uniform is black, but it's also like they have their own unique black outfit. Like John has the leather, and then Teyla has her like black stretchy tank top, which is in the style of her purple tank top, which is cool, underneath her jacket. And Rodney has like the black puffy jacket. It's just cute. And I kind of like that Ronon always gets to wear his own thing. Like he's never constrained into like a uniform or like a military garb. Like he always has his cool like vests and like brown tone clothes. Like, I don't know. I always like his outfits in every episode. They're cool.
I would have liked to see him like at least get offered a jacket.
Yeah.
Or like maybe like have a jacket in his room or something. But then it's just like no, like he chooses not to because like he's like no, fuck that. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love his outfits. And I think although I'm already starting to miss when his hair is pulled back. His hair was kind of like out this episode, which I was like, okay, fair. But I love when his hair pulled back into like the low pony.
True.
Maybe they just didn't have like clothes that fit him.
Oh yeah.
Tall.
True.
They were like, hey, try this one on, and like he did, and he just like he tried to zip it and it just like broke or something.
Yeah. I can see that 100%. And they're like, it just doesn't fit you. You know, I feel like he'd be the type to like make fun of like the rest of the team for wearing like all uniforms. He's like, you guys can't, you guys stand out too much.
True.
It's true.
I didn't even think of that. And, I mean, I'm really looking forward to season 4 where we get to see Ronan in, like, Earth-style clothes. Not uniform, but, like, suits and stuff. That's gonna be fun.
Oof. Love him.
I was just gonna not so nicely transition. So they end up in their cool clothes in the little jail made of... What was it made of?
Wood?
Yeah. And I thought it was really cute that John, like, wakes up sort of disoriented and, immediately is like, it could be worse, after he sees that they're all together. Which is sweet. I was like, aw, you're right. You could be separated, so at least you're all together. Trapped.
Yeah.
That would be like a great title of the episode, wait.
Yeah, actually though.
I did love the team in this episode. Like, they all really, really, really came through for Ronan.
Yeah.
And, like, from, like, starting in that scene with, like, John and Teyla being so adamantly behind Ronan and defending him from the villages, but also, like, trying to calm him down and taking away, like, some of his guilt that he's feeling. I really like that, where Teyla said that it wasn't his fault that all the people died, and he was like, no, but it was. And I was like, no, baby, no, it wasn't your fault. It's not your fault that you were made a runner, and that you went there, and that you were sick, and they took care of you, and that the Wraith killed everyone. It's not his fault. It was like, the trauma. And yeah, the guilt that Ronan is like feeling, and that we never really see that much. And yeah, also, this is the episode, like, I think also in that scene, I think he's talking, like, about what happened or something. I was like, wow, I think this is the longest, or maybe the most that Ronan has ever spoken in, like, the entire, last season, or like since he came onto the show, because he was talking, like, kept talking. It was like, this man has emotions, and like he's like the things that he went through, they are really, really affecting him. I was so amazed by his acting, actually, and that, like, his voice quivered. I was like, oh my god, this poor man, someone giving him a hug. Yeah, I got really emotional during that scene. And that he was sorry for what happened, when really it wasn't his fault.
Yeah. You finally get a sense of what he was going through. Like, as a viewer, we only really knew so far that he was implanted with this tracker and then chased around by the Wraith, but you never really knew that it went this dark, or it was this deep. And then he's been carrying around not only that trauma, but the fact that, no matter where he went, he was like a death bringer to everybody who tried to help him, which is so terrible. And it kind of puts his behavior towards Atlantis in the beginning, or when he was first introduced, into clarity, because you kind of understand his reluctance to stay, because that wasn't on his radar. Like, it wasn't a possibility for him before, because this is what happened when he stayed with somebody. So yeah, it was just nice seeing it, but also seeing him talk about it as well.
Yeah, and it's just kind of crazy, I feel like, sort of, when you really think about his backstory. Like, his entire planet was, like, blown up, so he thought he was the last one, and I think he was like a runner for like how many years? Like over 5 for sure.
I think
could
it was
say.
7.
Like 8. I don't remember what the time frame is. Okay, 7. Yeah, that's like really insane. And I think I can't help but think that he carries that guilt, and he almost saw like being a runner as sort of like a self-punishment, maybe, for like being the last surviving, quote unquote surviving, person from Sateda. And I think he maybe was sort of, self-punishing himself and like not actively trying to solve like the problem. Because when you think about it, right, it's kind of silly because all he had to do was take out that tracker. And I'm not saying it was easy, because like he was digging into his back and he had like scars to like get that off of him or whatever. But 7 years is a long fucking time. And that's what I think. I can't help but think that it's a lot deeper than people maybe perceive it to be. And I think especially that scene is so telling of, like John and Teyla trying to reassure him, and he's just like not listening. Teyla's like, yeah, I've tried. He's not listening to us. And then when he realized that the Wraith are being called, and Ronan just flips. He goes absolutely balls to the ball feral. He quite literally grabs a knife and, is threatening another person, right? Which is wild. And then when that doesn't work, he, puts the knife to his neck and is threatening suicide. Like, that's actually really sad. And I think, do we think he would have done it? I don't know. I can't tell you, because he was very desperate and he was so worried for John and Teyla's safety. And I think, they've come across Wraith before. It's not like they haven't seen Wraith, but I think just being back in this village and like those feelings of guilt and that form of self-punishment all coming together into one just made him absolutely fucking lose it. And I just felt, I was shocked when I saw that scene. I completely forgot that he was threatening, harm on himself to free them. And I was like, that was so hard to watch. And then, John and Teyla, are allowed to leave, and so they leave. And just, everyone's just acting. Again, Jason you could just tell he was destined for, being a huge star. He's so great in this episode. And I think also, though, Rachel and Joe do such a good job of that scene of just being, so baffled and so confused by his sudden, turn. And, there's so many great moments of, John and Teyla looking so worried. And I think there's, even, a flinch Joe does, when he puts the knife up to his neck, Ronan, and the way, he turns back when they're being let out and he sees, Ronan being, shocked on the ground. It's just, the emotions are there, and I fucking love this episode. Yeah, it's, what Ash was saying, the team is great, all the little relationship stuff. And I think Atlantis is at its peak when I think the team story is focused around the team, and the story is sort of forcing the team to be sort of ride or die for each other, because that's when these characters really lose their fucking minds, and it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I love these types of episodes where they still focus on one character, in this case on Ronan, but the team is there, and the team is there to support him, and the team is there to rescue him, and they have his back, because, and it shows, and the relationships sometimes between individual members, between the main character or the main focus of this episode, they also come through a little bit. There's a tiny bit not even that they were together in a scene, but Rodney and Ronan, that kind of by what Rodney was just babbling about with Carson. Sometimes it kind of you did get a little glimpse on at least how he views their relationship, and I really, really love this kind. I feel I could be totally mistaken, but I feel in SG1 there are a few of those episodes. And in Atlantis it's a little bit less, maybe. But I do love it, because it has it combines, I think, my two favorite things, in general, just focus on characters, and then the team in general, but also having a hook, which is one character it's getting backstory. Like, yes, give me all the backstory.
Absolutely, especially when that backstory really informs who the character is to and in the show. It was just great. Yeah, just wonderful, wonderful acting in that scene for sure. It's always so heartbreaking watching them being led away from the cage, or they're keeping Ronan. Like, Teyla actually physically reaching out to Ronan, even though like she cannot go to him, is just so, like, that's evil. Whoever directed that, or if Rachel came up with it herself, like, evil. That hurt my feelings so much, but I love it. I really do.
And also the fact that... Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, because this is after.
Yeah, mine too.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when they go back through the gate, and even some random military dude, we don't know his name, we've never seen him before, he was like, where's Ronan? Like, it gives you a sense of how Atlantis is such a family, not just within the core four, but with, of course, Elizabeth and Carson, which we see in the episode, but like everybody on the base. Everyone. Like, knowing him by name, like, sounding worried, and being like, let's go get him. Not even fazed by the fact that Teyla is like, there's Wraith gonna be there. And he's like, no, like, let's go. Nuts. Absolutely crazy. But I love it.
I love the fact that they just go back to Atlantis. They tell Elizabeth in like 2 sentences what's going on. Like, they still have Ronan. They're right there. We have to go get him. And like, nobody flinches. They just like suit them up again and ship them off. I'm like, the love and the family and the team and the everything and yeah. I love it.
Yeah. That's why I love Atlantis. It's like the mission and personal safety will always come second to the people. Which is so... And, like, the friendship and the bonds. Like, oh, yes. So good.
For better or worse.
Yeah, exactly.
For other people. Sucks to be a Pegasus native, but great for the Atlantis team. Yeah, I was gonna say, so happy you guys mentioned, Elizabeth and Carson, because I feel like even though they're not necessarily like in the core four, or even just like, Elizabeth didn't go off world to find Ronan, I just feel like their presence was felt, and I feel like their relationships with each other was like still felt, and I think, again, just a perfect team episode. Like, the best, in my opinion, one of the best that we've seen. I mean, so far, I can't remember one, I think, that comes as close to just how powerful it is in its sort of, like, subtle storytelling, right? Because, like, Elizabeth and Ronan, like, you're like, oh yeah, they don't have, like, that much, but you still feel like she's really worried for him, and you can just, like, tell in, like, little things, and she's just like, yeah, go out there, or when she's sort of, they have a whole team scene of them, getting Caldwell on board and being like, trying to find a solution. Caldwell's like, I don't want to do this, and John's like, you fucking better. And then, he's like, oh, fine, I don't even want to do this anyways. And then John's like, no, but like, we can take the puddle jumper, and like coming up with all these like creative solutions to just like get Caldwell on board. And I feel like the whole team is doing that. And so again, it's just like these little moments. Again, even Carson and Ronan get like some good, like, fleshed out material, and it's like, oh my god, wait, they're friends, and that hug they get, like, perfect. I love it.
The scene with Caldwell is also so good, because it's like, even visually, it's like, the way, like, they are staged in this scene, it's like Caldwell against the whole fucking team, including Elizabeth and Carson, and I do love that, and I do love how angry John gets when Caldwell wants to refuse, and like calling him out on like, oh, just because he's not a member of your team, you don't want to do that. But also Teyla and Elizabeth say we have no other choice. We like they block the gate, he can't get off. We have to get him. and Rodney wants you to go with them because even though he's injured, and it's I'm getting really emotional here, but I'm just really, really happy that this is happening, and that they all just have Ronan's back. And again, there's a little bit of humor in the episode, in this scene, because John says something. I don't remember what it is that Caldwell says something about, like, oh, but we're not rescuing you if you get in trouble. And John says, oh, you say that like we're always getting in trouble. And I'm like, dude, you are always getting in trouble. And then they just walk out on him.
It was a perfect mic drop.
I love that line. Yeah. That's like the thesis of Atlantis, Caldwell being like, I'm not going to save you, and John being like, well, we're not going to get in trouble. What are you talking about? Cute. Who like bombs and like buildings exploding and like waking up 10,000-year-old sleeping vampires. Like, that's like the perfect line to describe the show. That little scene.
Yeah, just play the Always Sunny in Philadelphia music after John says that. With the little episode title that's like, the team gets in trouble. Because that's what happens. Always. But, yeah, that scene is just so powerful, in so many ways, for so many reasons. I just really like the fact that, I feel like this is one of the only times you ever see John getting emotional or losing his cool is when it's about, the team or someone on Atlantis. And I love those moments that we get to see him kind of, like, not be the cool guy and just kind of stick his finger in someone's face and get all up in their grill about something. And I just think the way that he was so angry, like taking it, the fact that Caldwell didn't want to go rescue Ronan because Ronan was not a part of the US military and was a quote-unquote outsider, but to John, and I think Elizabeth, of course, and the rest of everybody, that was never the case. Like, they just don't see... This is discussed when he and Teyla have this conversation on the Daedalus, but, like, they just were never outsiders to him. Like, it was just... It's what I always say about them being this island of misfit toys. Like, everyone is an outsider, but when they're with each other, they all belong. And so, yeah, it was just nice. It was nice to see him really go for Ronan in that scene.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, obviously, all of the relationships in this episode are, I think, really well developed, like prominent. Like, I don't know, like all, like even like, you know, Elizabeth and Ronan or like Carson and Ronan, like there's like just some really great scenes. But I do think the standout is John and Ronan again. Just because, yeah, I think their acting is so good, and yeah, watching John like lose it slowly and like get progressively like more and more upset and sort of like frantic a little, to the point where Teyla feels like she has to come in and like have a conversation with him, is so great. And there's just like little moments, like when the team go back to the planet after, you know, they all suited up and they came back with reinforcements and they just find like the entire village destroyed, and we get that scene of John finding Ronan's gun and gripping it tightly. Insane. I loved it so much. And there's like these little moments are just sprinkled throughout the episode. Like, I love when John's trying to calm him down when they're in the cage, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, like, are you doing okay? Like, what's the plan here? Like, let me in on the crazy plan." And I think not to throw shade or sort of bring back an argument that we put to rest, kind of, but I think that's why I think Ronan's presence is just so great in the show, and unfortunately why 4 didn't work is because you can have sort of like quote unquote like more, I don't want to say feral, but like the one who's like the angry one, I guess, you know, the one who's going off the rails, and John has to be the one to pull him back. And I think in season 1 it was the opposite, right? Like John's the one going off the rails, and Ford was the one having to bring him back. And I like both versions of the character. I love about his relationship with Ronan is that he's the one who has to pull him back, or the one that they, there's just such like a fun dynamic there that we don't get to see, because it's not like Rodney and Teyla are, doing crazy things all the time. And I think you can really, like what Tor was saying, like his emotions get brought to the forefront when things happen to his team. And this is a pretty, like, they're all fucking stressed. This is like a crazy scenario. Like, Ronan gets kidnapped, taken to, like, and they don't even know how to find him, first of all. They have to, like, figure out his tracking thing, and they're like, okay, we figured it out. And then Rodney's like, oh yeah, he's on Sateda, his home planet. Like, this is, and like, what is it? They kill, like, 25 plus a Wraith. Like, it is a crazy scenario, and I think it's so fun because it brings out so many different emotions from all of them.
Yeah, the fact that those Wraith were able to completely decimate that village in 30 minutes was crazy. Like, they were not gone that long. But no offense, that was just desserts. They kind of deserved that, in my opinion. At least their leader guy did. But when it cuts to them implanting another tracker into Ronan, that was so messed up. I was, like, angry. Like, the Wraith can get kind of cartoony villain, and we've been talking about that a little bit. At least we did in season 2 a lot. But this time, I was like, no, I really loathed them this episode. So they did a good job of making them actually villainous, like grounding their evil in like terrible things that they were doing.
The horror aesthetic has returned.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was great. This is kind of the first time that I'm like really paying attention to like each episode individually and like in the context, obviously. In the context of a show. But I realized that it's kind of almost jarring to have like to go from like all the shit that they pulled with Michael and with the Wraithifier thingy, to go back to like full space vampires who decimate complete like a village and hunt people for sports. That was kind of weird. But I really liked that. I really liked these Wraith as villains. But yeah, I was kind of thinking about like the last few episodes that the Wraith showed up, and they were always so different because they had been changed by the humans from Earth, and these were like Wraith in their, I don't know, truest form, maybe?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I feel like not just in like the ending of season 2, but I feel like the Wraith, we talked about, were not really present in season 2 at all. Like, it was just mainly like Ford's storyline, and after that they kind of like disappeared and stuff for a while, and then Michael popped up. But yeah, it is really nice to just sort of be reminded, like, no, these guys are actually fucking terrifying. Especially because I don't think, we've talked about how sometimes Michael's storyline was just not handled really well, and I think some of the concepts they were trying to bring up were not done properly. And so yeah, I always do prefer sort of like just the fucking evil Wraith. Just the fucking, like, terrifying, holy shit, they will steal years from your life and leave you dead like a little skeleton. Those are the Wraith I vibe with more. And I think I was gonna say the Wraith designs actually were really cool. The sort of like the head Wraith who was like, torturing or like wanting to watch Ronan be murdered. That guy. He was cool. I loved his design. He was very like pirate-esque or just more like warrior. And I was like, yeah, bring more of that, Ruby were like just fucking absolutely hideous and like terrifying Wraith.
Yeah, that was cool. I have a little bit about that later in the bonus material, but it kind of shows like a hierarchy, in the Wraith, community, that they're like they have queens, but they also have like leaders on like hive ships that don't have to be queens. And this guy was one of them. He was fucking terrifying, and yeah, I did like the kind of pirate looks, and just like completely feral. Yeah, it was kind of animalistic in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I will say, the goggles kind of threw me out of it a little bit. Just a little bit. Like, it's a very serious, like, dour scene, and they're bringing Ronan back to the ruined Sateda to hunt him down one last time and kill him, and that's so fucked up. But then this Wraith comes down, and he has his swimming goggles on, and his, like, leather matrix getup, and I just had to laugh a little bit. It was pretty funny. Although I will say that it ended up being cool when it came back around and it was supposed to be like heat vision or like night vision goggles, and Ronan killed that guy and they showed it in the night vision. Like, that was cool. I'll allow it for that.
But the thing is, didn't he take them off like right away when he like entered, when they were in the dark?
Oh no!
I was gonna say, because his eyes were like, I think they're like almost turquoise. So I think that the point of those goggles were like to, I don't know, like keep his eyes protected until he can get like in the dark, and then he takes them off, and it's like his eyes are naturally like night vision or something. Like, that was like really interesting.
Oh,
yeah, he did take them off.
Yeah, you're right. He did definitely take them off, and I think they were to protect him like from the sunlight. I think that Wraith are maybe, I don't know, much more accustomed to the dark.
I don't know.
Nocturnal.
Yeah.
a lot of the cullings that we saw were like nighttime cullings.
Yeah.
So it could be.
And the ships are usually pretty dark. And I was wondering, because they zoomed in on his eyes in the dark at some point and they were kind of glowing, and I was like, do Wraith have like naturally this insane night vision, or does he have like contacts or like implants, or is he genetically enhanced? Because like his vision was very, I don't know, stylistic, I'm gonna say, like in the dark at least. So I was wondering if that was just like how Wraith saw. If yes, that's insane, because they don't see that, like they see in the dark, but like it's a very weird vision for me. Or if it's like, I don't know, if there was some, I don't know, like genetic manipulation behind it or something.
Yeah, I wonder, is that like a bug thing?
Yeah.
Too? Like, I don't know if bugs have certain, I don't know. Maybe I'm stretching, but
No, could be. I feel like that kind of makes sense. I also feel like, I feel like that little scene, like, we're giggling over those stupid fucking goggles, but it does sort of bring up more questions than I think we get answers to. Because, his eyes were like turquoise, or they were like bright or something, I think, when he took them off inside, and then they sort of focus on like his night vision, quote unquote, sort of that filter and that like framing, I guess. But that would be so interesting if they were like resistant to like sunlight or something. That would make make the vampire comparisons like very obvious. I mean, they already are obvious, but that would be really cool. And I think that would have been really fun to sort of maybe even see the Atlantis team use that and sort of have maybe realize that, and then maybe like, I don't know, maybe does it hurt them? Can they like burn in the sunlight because they're like because maybe their skin is so old because they they've been around for so long, maybe their skin's more sensitive or something. I don't know, that would have been really fun to see the Atlantis team like figure that out and then use that against them.
True. But I know this is kind of strange, but speaking of Sateda, when Rodney was, like, reverse engineering the tracker to find Ronan, which in and of itself is really cool, I really liked that we actually got to see Sateda's gate address on Rodney's laptop, broken down by symbol. That was kind of cool. I kind of wish that they would do that for a lot of the big planets that they visit.
Yeah. Also, did we ever realize that? I mean, I never knew that Rodney memorized every gate address.
Oh yeah,
in the Pegasus, whatever. I was like, wait, what? He said in the beginning, like he teases or he jokes about it, and then the letters or the symbols pop up. He's like, oh wait, no, that's Sateda or something, or maybe he says it before the symbols pop up. I don't know, but yeah, I was like, hold on, that's like actually crazy. You guys have like been to tens and tens of maybe even hundreds of planets, and he actually memorized all the gate addresses.
Does he have a photographic memory or something?
Maybe. I mean, it would explain a lot.
That's what I was thinking.
He must.
That's true. Like it's no big deal, and I was like, "Hello."
It's like a superpower.
Crazy. So yeah, maybe he does.
Yeah,
it's Mike Ross.
yeah, and it's funny because it's so important. Like, I feel like they should have used that in an episode or something where, like, they need to dial someplace safe and, like, nobody knew a good address. And he was like, no, I remember. It's this, and this, because I know all the addresses. This is a safe place. Like, that would be cool. Because I feel like as someone who, as he said in the beginning of the episode, is a super anxious person, I think it's also a good contingency plan to know, like, safe gate addresses, so, in Pegasus. So, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that is very true. It just makes it even funnier, though, that they just, like, drop this random Rodney lore in this episode and then never used it again. Like, wait a minute. That's, like, a big thing to drop, and then, yeah, never address it again. Like, that's not a big potential storyline or something. Well, since we're sort of on the topic of Sateda, I actually wanted to talk about we get a lot of information about the planet, and I, through just like not just like the flashbacks, but also through like present day as Ronan's like running through the city, and there's just so much to talk about there. But something I wanted to bring up was how it looked in the flashbacks, and also interesting of like what Ronan was wearing in one of those flashbacks. Like he's wearing like a vest or like a dress shirt and like a vest buttoned up over it, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? It looked very like 1800s esque, but then in like the ruins of the building and stuff, it looks very like 1920s, 1930s. And so I was, of course, just utterly confused. I was like, what did Sateda look like? Like, I'm so curious. I feel like we never really get many like answers to sort of what Sateda was like as a society, which is really unfortunate. But it is nice to see Ronan just like in different clothes, and to see like how sort of put together you could say he was.
Yeah, he got that suit vest on and the puff sleeve. It was cute.
Yeah,
I would have worn something like that. I love it. I love it so much. And I also found it really interesting that when we visit Sateda this episode, I mean, the whole episode is sort of like this. There's very cool tone filter on the footage, and then the flashbacks are all warm. Like oranges and reds and stuff, which is an interesting contrast, because usually I feel like flashbacks are like black and white, or like, yeah, so it makes the Sateda of now feel that much more void of life and like sad when shown in comparison, even though they were going through war at the time.
Maybe it's the emotions that he connects with Sateda, and it's his home and like his girlfriend or fiance or whatever she was there, and maybe that's also part of like the color scheme here.
I gotta be honest, though. Ronan, your wife sucked.
Oh, boiling hot tea.
What did she do?
No, okay. Here's the thing. Girl, I get it. I was like, chill with her. And then that scene in the hospital, the last scene where she's blown up, and Ronan's like begging her to leave, and she's like, I can't. I was like, okay. I don't know, just like, if, carry people out or something. Like, you can't just do nothing. She was just like, I can't leave. And Ronan's like, what? And in the beginning, she was like, oh, but this poor girl has nowhere to go. So Ronan picks her up, and then she's like, but no, I can't. I was like, girl, make up your damn mind. I was like, I know you're like a medical, a doctor or something, and so you don't want to leave your patients behind, but at least like start ferrying people out. Like, well, what did you think was going to happen? No, Ronan was like, the whole place is about to go down, and she's like, you're not a ship's captain. You don't have to go down with the ship. Like, if you could have saved more lives if you would have just ran and just started picking people up and taking them to the gate. Like, I don't know. She was pissing me off with that. I was like, I get the sentiment. It's like, I can't leave my patients behind. But like, don't leave them then. Take some. Let's go.
They could have given her a little bit more of a personality. Because I feel like it was very like standard flashback dead wife trope. Like the one, like the first person perspective when they're in bed, and it's like, I've seen this
many times.
Many times.
Yeah. Although I did find it interesting that I feel like Ronan's mindset now kind of mirrors Maleena's mindset back then when it came to fighting versus running from the Wraith. Like, she was like, we can't run forever. And Ronan now is very much like, whenever they encounter the Wraith, is very much like, we fight, instead of running away. So that's interesting. True. And I feel like it's also sort of poetic that he was like begging her to run away, and then he was like forced to run from Wraith for like 7 years. It's so dramatic. I don't know if this is a stretch, but like, yeah, he was kind of forced to do it and then realized like, yeah, running kind of gets you nowhere. So I guess I'm gonna turn around and fight now.
That guilt.
Yeah.
You can't just say something like that and expect me to be normal about that. Man,
that was a very crazy sentence.
It was. But also you can't run forever, and like, could you Ronan becoming a runner and like running for
a long time.
Probably felt like forever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually he had to stand and fight, and he was tired, and eventually, try to take his tracker out.
Yeah.
And got help from others, because he was so alone for a while. I think, one of the standout scenes, I think it's so underrated, I feel like, but it's just a very, like, dark and wild, that they would put that in Stargate. There's that scene of Ronan walking down the corridor, the dark corridor, and he's, like, seeing these skeleton bodies, and then it jumps back to, like, people in his squad, and, like, he recognizes, like, which bodies these skeletons are, and, like, which were his friends and everything. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know, that scene was crazy, and, like, they don't just do it once. It's like 3 or 4 times they show different people back then as he's, like, walking with them, and, like, those are part of his squad. Maybe he's known for a while, if they're just, like, his military, or, like, whatever. And the fact that he takes the armor off of one of them too, like, it's just, whoa. Very dark and very, very sad.
Yeah, and all this, like, really deeply, like, stuff that you would see from, like, World War II films that are exploring, like, the psyche of people in war, interspersed with, like, this crazy, fun, over-the-top action sequence with one dude. Like, with just Jason Momoa at the helm. Like, it was crazy. Like, all that slow motion, throwing the grenade, not looking at the explosion, and the kicking the gun up like it's a soccer ball. And all of that stuff was so good, and it kept it from sinking too far into the, like, this is really morbid territory, because it was also really over the top metal action fun.
Yeah. I think there's nothing like seeing Ronan, like, mow down 20 Wraith just out of, like, pure rage, and just all this, like, cheesy slow-mo and, like, jumping in the air with, like, his guns and just boom boom. Like, yeah, no. 10 out of 10. No complaints, honestly. I don't care. I accept the cheese in this episode. I think it needs the cheese, and the writers and the directors and everyone knew that it was going to be way too heavy if they didn't have not only the Rodney humor aspect, but also just the over-the-top action scenes. Because I think it, fallen into this is so fucking depressing territory instead of holy shit, this is so cool. And you're like, get revenge, Ronan, like, get your vengeance, like, start killing these Wraith. And he does it in such, like, over the top ways, and it's just, like, I don't know, it's interesting and it's fun to watch.
Yeah. It's really hard to complain about like actions, about these action scenes. And I think they were just so well choreographed.
Yeah.
Like the one scene in the warehouse with the 5 Wraith, and like, it was, of course, it's like, it's insane and unrealistic, but like, I'm not watching Stargate for something realistic. So it was just fun, and how he planned like every move, and how he also just knew how the Wraith would try to catch him, so he could like plan accordingly and doing all that, and it's just really good. And him just going feral again over like when just, sorry, jumping ahead, but in the end when they're like 25 Wraith coming at them, and he just shoots them down one by one, and Carson's like counting down the Wraith that are still left. It's really good. It's entertaining, and it's just at a level where I think it for me at least, it was still like a level of action that was, yes, I don't know, over the top, yes, but also not. For me, it kind of worked out.
Yeah. It was a good balance.
I think, not only, Rodney and just sort of the action scenes bring humor into this episode, but when John and Teyla find Ronan at the end, there's so much humor in, like, not even just their interactions, but also with, like, Rodney and Ronan, right? Remember that scene of Rodney yelling and, like, cursing the Ronan out, and John, like, not translating that, and he's just like, oh, he's really sad. And also the scene of Carson and Rodney, like, fighting over the gun to go save Ronan because they want to go save the day with him, and John being so fucking annoying with Teyla, like, with, like, his kill count, and then I think, the kill count, he does something, he makes jokes twice, and Teyla just looks at him like, you're so annoying. I'm like, Teyla, do not put up with him, take the credit for your kills! But she does not care. And so, yeah, I don't know. This good episode. Just so fun.
It kind of made me wish that, like, I love, obviously, David Hewlett is a great physical actor, so it would be a shame if he was not with the team while they were off-world. But it also is just fun having Rodney on the radio, like, while they're doing a mission. I think they should have done that way more. Just, I don't know what is so fun about it, but I just really like it. Like, it was good. It was great. It was great this episode.
He just really hates not doing something, right?
His nervous energy.
Yeah. He can't be out there because he's injured and he doesn't have the training, let's be real, for, like, this kind of situation. So he has to stay back, but he so wants to help. So he just starts yelling. Who doesn't even hear him?
He's backseat driving, or
Yep.
I thought when you mentioned John and Teyla, I thought you were going to talk about the scene on the Daedalus where John and Teyla have
yes.
this really, really awkward, but really also really funny and really heartfelt both conversation. And I really starting to like John a lot in these last, I don't know, few episodes. I really love this scene. I really, really love this scene. It's so awkward at first. And I just love how Teyla keeps finishing John's sentences, and mostly she is right. And when she says, like, yeah, I don't have many, and she finishes it with friends, he is so offended, and it's so fucking funny. I crack up every time, and, he's really trying to, like, express his feelings and really struggling. But I think this also just shows, like, how well Teyla and John show each other. I also feel like this is one of the, like, we don't see that many interactions between them, I feel like. And not a lot where they just talk and not fight.
Yeah.
I think, Sam, you pointed it out a few times, that they're just constantly fighting, and it's true. And this time they don't. And I really love that. And I love how Teyla was like, oh, yeah, that she thanked him for, like, going after Ronan like this, and, like, showing them that they really are part of the team and that they're his family and all that. I was like, oh my god, yes, they are his family. This is so cute. I'm gonna cry. And then he even, like, he initializes touch, like, he like, pets her hand or something. I was like, oh my god, this is huge! This is huge! What happened? Did you start going to therapy? Or, I don't know what happened.
Breakthrough.
it's like the most awkward, like, he, like, slides it over, like, pat, pat. And then he, like, gets up, and then he walks away, and she's, like, saying something, and he doesn't even look back. He just, like, stops, and, like, she says something, I forget, and he just walks away without even looking back, and I'm like, yep, that's the John we know.
Yeah. I think she says, thank you for everything you meant to say. And it is so sweet. And that is so John. But also, like, John also found the people who understand him, and where it isn't always expected from him to, like, express himself. Like, it helps, obviously. But still, he's accepted as, like, this repressed person, and it's okay, and people still like him, and yeah,
to me this is the, like, titular John scene. If I was asked by anybody, like, what is the one scene that, like, makes you like John Shepherd, or, like, characterizes John Shepherd, like, how do I understand him, I would just show them the scene. Honestly, this is the best possible scene to show John's character, and I feel like just so good. Everything about it was so good. I don't even know where to begin. I really appreciated the fact that he himself kind of admits that he's a loner, or he was a loner. Like, he's like, I didn't fly copters in the most remote part of my world for no reason. Like, I wanted to be away from people. And it's kind of something he's never really admitted out loud before, or said out loud prior to the scene, so it was interesting to see that. And nice seeing him sort of vulnerable for once, even though he can't really get the words out, and Teyla has to translate for him. And her being so patient with him and so earnest and fond was really nice as well.
We've often complained about sort of, oh my god, how do I even put this into words? But like, for example, like, when Ronan would just say, like, oh, what's that? Or, like, or Teyla would be like, oh, what's this? Or something, like, in season 2. It was just sort of, like, very, like, generic sort of writing, is maybe the way to say it. when they're sort of just like asking like questions, or we'd be like, oh well, like maybe Ronan would say this instead, or Teyla would say this instead. But I just feel like this is such a good scene, like Tor said, just to show who these characters are at their core, and like how uncomfortable John is talking about this. And like even in the beginning when he's like playing with a stupid little fucking like, is it a DS or like a little gamer thing? Like he's like, he could have just been eating. But instead they chose to have him playing on a stupid little gaming thing, which is like, yeah, just so in character. That's so him. And then to have Teyla come over, and then again, like Teyla is so kind in that scene, but I also think a lot of people sort of missed Teyla's like, I don't want to say sarcasm, but just like her directness, like the way she, she's like reading John to fucking filth.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I don't have many, and he's like trying to find the word, and she goes, friends, and then he's like, oh, I have friends, and or social skills, and she's just dragging him up and down. I mean, like in a very Teyla way, where it's like very nice and respectful, but like she's just being like, yeah, you don't have friends. Or, yeah, you are bad at talking to people. And John's like, wait a minute. I didn't mean it that way. John's like, I think you're putting some of your own words in there. And so I just feel like I love when Atlantis, and I mean, just not even just Stargate, but just in general, when shows can do that. When it's just a simple scene of two people talking, but they are just so in character, they feel like a conversation these characters would be having. Like, this is a John and Teyla conversation. Like, if you had to, like, this is them, who they are. And I love it. And not only just them, but it's also, it informs so much about, like, yeah, the team, and what Tor was saying, how they are sort of into each other. Like, they didn't have that back on Earth, but they have that here now. And they're so desperate to hold on to that they'll risk, like, who knows how many people on this giant ship to go to a planet with like a Wraith hive ship in orbit. Like, that is crazy, but they're gonna do it for one man because they like refuse to let each other go without like fighting like hell to keep what they have, and so yeah, that scene I think is one of the best scenes in Atlantis, just because it informs so much about each character, and also just because obviously we're all John stans, or at least on the spectrum of John enjoyers. And so any scene where John gets to sort of let the veil drop and sort of let people see how repressed and how much this place means to him, and like how he'll do anything not to lose it, is like a 10 out of 10 in my books. And this is one of the easiest, like, this is who he is, this is who he cares about. And I think, it just does so much for John and Teyla's friendship too. And I do wish they had like focused on this aspect more. I feel like, again, season 1, they just focused so much on like them fighting all the time, or them having like different views on things, which could be interesting, but it's just not really followed through. And especially when they're trying to build this quote unquote romance, it's just like non-existent. But I think this is like genuinely a good scene, and genuinely like a scene that shows that, I don't want to say they could have worked, but like a glimpse of maybe what the writers were like trying to do with these two as like not just friends, but like as a potential romance, and like how they fit together. Because Teyla does understand him in a way that maybe, I don't really see a lot of other people being able to have that conversation with John, and John being so open and letting his guard down. So 10 out of 10, no notes.
And a tiny little bit that I really enjoyed is that it kind of gives a little bit of background about Teyla and her place in Atlantis as well, in the beginning at least, because she mentions that. Well, I think John says, oh yeah, but of course, like, you're part of my team and you're part of Atlantis, like you and Ronan, even though you're not from Earth. And she said, well, yeah, like in the beginning, she felt like accepted from John and from Elizabeth, but the rest not so much. I was like, like these, like that John and Elizabeth were the ones who the first ones who like truly accept them into Atlantis. And I really like that.
Yeah, I want to give, again, just another shout out to Jason Momoa and just how great he is in this episode. I think Ronan doesn't always get the most to work with, but he did in this episode, and he pulled off so many different emotions for Ronan. And they are, like, very intense emotions, you know? Like, he's desperate, he's he's hurt, he's traumatized, rageful. And I also want to just give a little special shout out to that scene of Ronan fighting the sort of head Wraith when he beams down to the planet. And I love that Jason always tries to incorporate some of his culture into, like, his shows and stuff, or, like, the roles he does, because he does, like, a specific, I think, like, when he, like, pounds his chest, or when he does something, and I think it's supposed to be a callback to his Polynesian and Hawaiian heritage, if I'm not making leaps and bounds, but that was just my guess. I've seen, like, I know that they do specific, like, chants, and also specific, like, sort of, like, beating of the chest is sort of, like, I love that he brought that into, like, Satedan culture. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
It was just something that he does it, like, later on, too, like, when he's, I think in season 4, when he fights the, like, his old Satedan friends, I think he does it again. So something that he does bring up, and it is part of Satedan culture because of Jason, which is so fun.
Yeah, no, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and there's just something about Ronan in this episode that he's such an honorable guy. Like, you can tell he lives his life by a code and, like, to be a good person. The fact that he was willing to fight for those people on that planet, even though they sold him out, because he felt responsible for their misfortune in the past, and, like, even if they were being terrible to him, and, like, John and Teyla were trying to say, like, they don't deserve you going this far for them, or you don't have to feel, like, obligated to go this far for them, he still does. And his reluctance to accept help throughout the episode was also really interesting. Like, him telling John, stay out of my way, and, like, if you kill that Wraith, I'm gonna kill you. But then being so giggly and happy when Carson and Rodney come in at the end and, like, blast the Wraith away with a drone, and just being so thankful to them is such an interesting emotional journey that he went on, and I feel like he kind of went through this arc on the show as well, where he was so reluctant to accept help and, like, be accepted into Atlantis as one of their own, and he's, like, slowly learning to live as part of a group again, in a society of people, which is really cool, and I really love that for him.
Yeah, he's not alone anymore. And I think, I don't know, I like to think that that was what made him so giggly and happy, and that's why he gave Carson a hug, was because he realized, like, I couldn't do it, but, like, you stepped in, and, like, you were able to help me, and so I'm not alone.
I love the little moment when the jumper decloaks while the Wraith is on top of Ronan, and Ronan just looks up and says, I win. And then the Wraith gets blasted away. Insane moment for me, because Ronan the whole time, like, he was trying to, like, be the one who fights, be the one to kill this guy, and then getting to a point where Liz can't, where he's unable, and then still feeling like he's winning, even though he's not the one to, like, do the kill in the end.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
I love it. Oh, it's
like,
it's so visceral. It's like, I won not even just the battle, but, like, life. Like, look at the people that are surrounding me now, and, like, you tried to beat me down, but, like, you can't. So, yeah, it's really emotional. I don't know.
It's like, I got my life back. Yeah. He got his life back.
Yeah.
It's something they took away from him for 7 years. Not just as a runner, but also his planet. But then he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wins because he has his family now.
Yeah.
I love this episode so much. Also, can we talk about that scene where Carson confronts Rodney, and he's like, "Why do you care about Ronan?" And Rodney gets all defensive, and he's like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, we have an unspoken bond." And Carson's like, "Have you ever even spoken to each other?" And Rodney's like, "We don't need to. Like, you know, we save each other or whatever." And I was like, yes, exactly. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, Rodney. You do have an unspoken bond with Ronan. And I think if there's anyone to have an unspoken bond with, it's Ronan.
Exactly. And Rodney also says that he's a very caring person. And, like, Carson looks at him. And we bring this up all the time, that he often doesn't appear that way. Like, he's caring, but also... Is it, I think, in, Outcast, maybe? When this guy talks to Rodney and says, like, oh, so we're not gonna we can't get you to, like, do the stuff that we want if we threaten you, so we're just gonna threaten your friends, and then you're gonna work for us. So... he's not even lying. He's just like, his caring for other people is just like wrapped into like the louder parts of his personality maybe. But it's still there and it's true.
Yeah, I think everybody in the team is sort of allergic to being vulnerable and like showing emotion, and each one of them has like a very specific way that they cloak that stuff, and like Rodney very much is worried about Ronan throughout the entire episode. But like masks it very well under like anger that Ronan doesn't want to accept their help and nervousness and all that stuff. So yeah, I think he does care a lot, and it just is deep down in the marshmallow center of him. For sure.
Yeah, I also love that Carson calls him out, and he's like, "You call him a caveman," and Rodney's like, "Well, I'm just teasing." He's like, "Oh my god,
it's a pet name."
Fucking,
you wouldn't know anything about that.
Bye. Rodney would very much be like, "Well, that's what like men. That's what men do. That's what men's friendship is."
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he has such like a warped sense of, I think, male friendship that he's like, "That's normal, right?" And everyone's like, "No, baby girl. I think you were just bullied."
Yeah, exactly. Even like at the very, very end of the episode where Rodney is like just staring at Ronan on the floor, like not really wanting to leave him alone, and John is like, "Hello, who's flying the puddle jumper? It's not me. It's not you." So yeah, that was good too.
So good. So good.
I also feel like the ending in the jumper was another moment that was like perfectly quintessential everyone. Like everyone had their very them moment, like the Ronan and Carson hug. Rodney gets his little pat from Ronan. And after all his like huffing and complaining, he's like, "Don't mention it," like so chipper and like it was nothing. John is allergic to emotion, so of course he's not going to be like, "So happy you're all right," and instead he's still exaggerating about how many Wraith he has killed. And Teyla, of course, rolling her eyes.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Teyla, correct him! Teyla, get your credit, girl! Beat his ass!"
It's okay, no one will believe him.
It's true. Yeah.
I hope not.
He kept upping his number. Idiot.
Yeah,
He's such an idiot.
Yep.
Idiot affectionate in parentheses.
Yes.
But idiot
Yes.
all the same.
Yes. begrudgingly affectionate. This episode has one scene where I actually can't watch the screen. It's a scene when Ronan is, I think he's cutting a bullet out of his leg, and it's just and then it's just like mixed or like cut with the flashbacks, and then him just yelling, and the cinematography there with the mirror, and like then the shots of just the blood and like stuff dripping. It's like I felt his pain on so many levels there. It's really, really good. Really, really painful. But I think it really, again, it fit the episode. Like, it fit, like, I think it perfectly, like, combined, like, the physical and the mental pain that Ronan was experiencing here.
Absolutely. It was very visceral for a Stargate scene.
Yeah. Yeah. They were not pulling their punches this episode, and I think part of that, again, was the humor that kind of allowed them to sort of go further into the dark aspect, the horror aspect. But yeah, that scene was wild. I was like, dang, the acting and just like having to act like there's something in, leg that's lodged in there, and you're like pissed because you've been fighting like space vampires is like a crazy. How do you even do that? How do you even act like you're in pain like that? That's crazy.
Plus all the trauma that is just like coming back.
Yeah. All I wanted to say left was Rodney wears kiwi boxers.
Yep. That is very important information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know, does he wear a fruit every day? Does he wear like kiwis on Wednesdays? Like, I would love to know his underwear routine. Or kiwis are like for bad days. Strawberries are for good days. I don't know. I love that.
Yeah, that was a very interesting shot. Another really good Rodney scene was when he was really high off the painkillers, and he was like talking about everybody, and he called Teyla a pretty girl. That was so cute.
Oh yeah.
I was like, it was such like a innocent and like genuine compliment. He's like, that was just the cutest. I loved it.
Yeah.
Wasn't offended he called her a girl though.
Oh,
I don't know.
I blamed it on him being high, I guess.
yeah, probably. Like, definitely. Also, like, I think it's very funny how he characterized, like, his team members, like, the one with the weird hair.
Oh, yeah.
The pretty girl and the caveman.
I mean, that's who they are. I love that, like, when they strip them down to, like, basics, like, yeah, that's it. That's the Atlantis team. And we can head over now to Ash for the Bechdel test.
Oh.
This episode fails.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
The one thing.
Yeah. And then actually we're just gonna stay over with Ash because we have the behind the scenes.
Yes. Okay, this episode was written and directed by Robert C. Cooper. This episode is actually the most expensive episode of Stargate Atlantis so far, after the double episode, like the two-parter Rising.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. He said in the audio commentary that he threw the script together and he just put everything in there that he could imagine and that he wanted to do, and expected for it to be like cut down completely, but they kept most of the stuff.
Nice.
Wow. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so you could really just, I think it was kind of his baby in this episode. Also, He lost hearing in one ear for a while from standing too close to like the huge explosions.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So much for Robert C. Cooper. Now a little bit of background info. We talked a little bit about that, but yeah, the hive ship in this episode appears to have a male leader instead of a Wraith queen, which is the first occurrence of such a thing. Todd later states during the Asuran Tauri Wraith War, wow, love that word, that many of our ships are without queens. So it is quite possibly that most of the hive ships are commanded by Wraith males, at least in the current era.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Weird?
Yeah?
I like the idea of a hierarchy, but I don't know if I like the idea of like just
I feel like it diminishes the queens a little bit, and I would love to have more of a like just to know more about the exact hierarchy, because I think what sometimes gets lost in Atlantis is how big hives are and their significance. We don't exactly know how many hives there are, but I think it would be cool if they're like if each hive actually had a queen, because that makes sense, because hive and queen, you know. And then but there are smaller ships that are not hive ships but also like huge fucking ships. And if those were commanded by like others, that would make sense for me. Or maybe they were like, I don't know, deputies or something. Or yeah, but yeah.
I think it would have been nice to see maybe like I get what you mean by it kind of like diminishes the queens, but maybe like another female wraith, but not like queen status. Like like you said, a deputy or something. Because I think that does make sense for again like smaller ships, but yeah, a princess. I am actually so down for that. That would be actually really fun. Maybe like the younger queens, or the princesses, but they haven't like transitioned, I guess, into when you reach a certain age, you can become like a queen. But first, you have to do like if it's like a position you have to like fill, or you have to like go through the ranks, so you can be like a princess on like a smaller ship, and then eventually you can move up to like queen status. That'd be fun.
That would be really cool.
Especially if it's like ruthless, like a bunch of princesses are just like fighting, and like trying to survive, and like to be the one to make it to like 1,000 or something, or like 5,000, because then you get to be the queen or something. That'd be awesome.
The Sateda hospital scenes were filmed at the Riverview Psychiatric Hospital in BC, and the warehouse and street scenes were filmed in the Terminal City Ironworks. And if it looked familiar to you, you might recognize it from other shows like Supernatural, X-Files, Arrow, Smallville, and
oh my gosh,
movies like Deadpool 2.
What?
Just to name a few.
Oh wow.
And I also feel like that other Stargate episodes have been filmed there, but I didn't find anything. And I can't remember which ones, but it does look familiar for some reason.
What is it? Carson's episode, season 1, was filmed there.
The Cure?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was filmed there, because I remember like a Riverview something. Like,
yeah.
I think I want to say, I could be wrong, but I think it was filmed there.
Yeah. No, that's very much possible, yeah. Nice. I knew we had this before. Speaking of Carson, this apparently is the first episode where Carson actually kills someone.
Oh, directly this time, huh?
Yep.
That's true. That's very true.
I mean, he saves Ronan's life with it, but yeah. Still. So obviously we see a lot of Ronan's backstory in this episode, and even more of Ronan's history as a runner is explored in the Atlantis novel Hunt and Run, which is taking place in season 5. Their team encounters a group of runners who fight back against the Wraith, but have begun targeting humans as well. The runner's leader was the one who trained Ronan to fight back, but Ronan then left the group when they started going too far. There's also confirmed that the Wraith leader is the one responsible for Ronan becoming a runner in the first place, and he's telling his former friend that he got revenge and did it with the help of his friends. In the end, Ronan's former friends are left without their ship after McKay destroys it as a distraction, and as the team leaves, an entire hive ship comes after them, making it likely that they are gone now. Sorry, I should have put spoiler warning at the beginning of this, but yeah.
Whoa, cool. I mean, I think that kind of actually makes sense because, we've always wondered, like, was Ronan alone during those 7 years? I think, on one hand, I like that he was alone, but on the other hand, I'm kind of like, I think it is interesting, and it would make sense for, like, runners to sort of team up and sort of create, like, a coalition and, like, try to fight back. It's interesting, though, they targeting humans. That's interesting. I wonder where that came from. It sounds very, like, what made you switch up on us? What did we do to you?
I was wondering about that. I was wondering if it has to do with, like, Wraith worshippers, maybe? Or if it's just, like, plain humans who they were just like, fuck them. I mean, there are a few humans who, like, are kind of in alliance with Wraith. We see that in Condemned! That's the episode I was thinking of earlier, not Outcast, Condemned.
Oh, yeah.
Right, that's what it's called.
But that's also the episode where we see, like, humans kind of having a deal with Wraith, and also in this episode, which is, like, in Sateda, like, the humans think they have a deal with the Wraith, but obviously the Wraith don't honor their side. So I wonder if they're going in the novel, if they're going against them, or just like humans in general. But also the fact that in the end they leave them behind and just to get killed seems oddly on track for.
Oh yeah,
the team.
Very much in character.
That's not surprising. We gotta do the book club. We gotta do that damn book club thing where you want to start.
Yeah.
True.
We have some recurring actors. One of them is Dan Payne, who plays the big Wraith. That's his name. And he previously played a bunch of characters in both SG-1 and Atlantis, including various Jafar, and he usually plays the Coal Warriors, including Vala in, like, before she takes off her helmet.
Oh my god!
It's also Dan Payne. I read it and I was so confused because they were listing all the roles he played, and then it was like Vala Maldoran, and I was like,
wait, what?
How? And when? And why? And then I realized, when she was still in uniform. But it was so weirdly phrased.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then James Bamford, who played the Wraith with the goggles, that's the fight coordinator for SG-1 and stunt coordinator for SG-8. And he also had a bunch of roles in both SG-1 and Atlantis. I'm not sure about Atlantis, but in SG-1 for sure. And the fight between Ronan and that Wraith that's shot in the dark, it was actually shot in the dark, so they were doing their fight sequence completely in the dark with just like strobes and sparks going off.
Oh, that's cool.
Holy shit. Yeah, we didn't praise like the fighting, like the combat enough, I think. That was great, and it's so impressive that it was just in the dark, and then with the little ashes of light going on and off. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'd be so scared to hit
Yeah.
the other person by accident.
I know.
That's crazy talented.
Also, I think the fact that they didn't hit each other, apparently, or at least not too badly, goes back to the fact that Jason really, really loved the script and the story for Sateda, and he prepped so much for it that Robert, the director, was kind of worried that he was overdoing it, but he just really, really enjoyed it, and I think he and James Bamford also just worked really hard on like the fight scenes and everything. And obviously Jason also did a lot of his own stunts. Not all of them. Like he didn't get thrown against the gate thingy, but still did a lot of his own stunts.
I love that.
I'm not surprised.
You can't replicate, like, his physicality.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Replicate his physicality and, like, his, I don't know, dedication to, like, the role, and also, like, his passion for, like, doing, like, the physical and also doing, like, so much research and stuff. I love that. I just feel like that's very him. I feel like I always hear that about him, like, in other roles as well. So I love that that's, like, a trend that's just continued on.
Yeah. I have one quick quote which I thought was just really sweet. It's from Rachel Luttrell Taylor.
Oh.
And she says, well, this was way back when, quote, "There's going to be a really, really wonderful episode for Jason, for Ronan's character. That's like a movie. It touches quite heavily on his past and his family, his planet and his people. It's a very cool episode, full of action and his backstory, so it's a great episode for him. We're all kind of excited about that. And most of all, obviously, Jason." End quote.
Oh, I love that so much. He deserves it, and like the cast is also like, yeah, he deserves it. It's a genuinely great episode.
Yeah. They're just...
Yeah.
Everyone in the episode was behind Ronan, and everyone, like, in real life was also behind Jason for getting this episode. It's all coming together here.
Yeah. It's a great episode, too.
It is.
That was it for me, by the way.
But, and now we're gonna head over to Tor for the Fic Rec Corner.
All right. So, we talked a lot about it in the episode, which is very fortuitous. So, it makes this Fic Rec make sense. Obviously, today's fic is going to be very Ronan-centric. It is called Belonging by LTLJ. This is a gen fic. It's sort of written like an episode. Basically, mission goes wrong. John is trapped, and Ronan is the only one who can go after him. So I thought it was a really good fic rec to go with this episode, because it's kind of the opposite of what this episode was. We had a lot of John advocating for Ronan in this, and like fighting for Ronan in this, and now we're gonna have some Ronan fighting for John. And another reason I chose this fic for this week is because it's not only about their friendship, but also about Ronan's relationship with other people on the expedition, particularly the military. So, like we mentioned, that one military dude who was like so gung-ho about going to get Ronan back, we see a lot of that in this fic, and a lot of interesting, different dynamics of Ronan's on Atlantis. So definitely a really good read. Just under 10,000 words. It's good. Go read it.
Yay! I love that it's a... Yeah, I love that it's a gen fic, too. I feel like it's very... I don't know, I feel like I gotta start reading more gen fic. I feel like they're very underrated. Yeah, all that's left is to go around and give our ratings. Oh man, this is. I feel like this is a hard one to rate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know what I'm gonna rate it.
You go first, then.
Okay, I'm gonna rate this episode 10 out of 10. I honestly cannot complain about a single thing of this episode, so I'm just gonna go balls to the wall, ham, 10 out of 10. Friggin' Ronin episode, friggin' action galore. It had emotion. Everyone was so quintessentially them in this episode. So many iconic scenes, lines come from this episode. It was just great. So refreshing to see even the ensemble cast included in such an emotional episode. 10 out of 10.
Sam, I wanna hear yours first.
Well, no, I'm actually, yeah, I don't know. I think I have to go for a 10 out of 10. I really do. Just because, like, kind of like exactly what Jordan said. I'm like thinking, I'm like, I don't have anything to complain about, and I kind of don't want to complain about anything. I just think it's genuinely like a good episode. Like, I don't want to like look to, we've already like analyzed it. I'm like, no, it's fine. I love it. It's great. I think the action is great. What it does for Ronan's character is like, cannot be understated enough. Like, it does so much for his character, his past and his present and his future, and sort of the arc that he goes through. Again, the team aspect is amazing. The humor is so well balanced. The action, I think it's great. It's just peak Atlantis. It's peak Stargate. It's just what you want in a Stargate episode. You come for the family, the good story, the humor, action. This is it. This is the episode. And so, yeah, 10 out of 10. I love it.
Yeah, it's really hard because, like, I always write down a rating right after I watch it.
Right.
And I gave it a 9 out of 10. But when we were talking, I was like, it's not enough. But I don't know if I can give it a 10 out of 10. And I don't know why.
9.5?
Because, yeah. Or 9.75, something. Something like it's very, very close because of everything you just said. It's like the producer said, it's kind of, or people said, it's kind of like a movie, and it does feel like a movie a little bit. A very short movie, but a very well balanced, and it's kind of insane that they managed to put all that into 42 minutes. Mm-hmm. Crazy accomplishment. We talk about pacing in like modern media a lot, and somehow I don't know how it worked out for this episode, but it was amazing. It's dark, but it's funny. The team, the fucking team, the whole team. It gives background info, which I always love. It's funny, it's heartfelt, it has emotions, it has everything. So why can't I give it a 10 out of 10? I don't know. I think I'll go with
is good. I think
9.5, yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I know.
I think it
9.5 because it needed more Elizabeth.
Probably. I feel
Yeah,
like if there had been a scene. Oh, guys, you know me. Yeah, I feel like if there had been a scene with either Elizabeth being a bit more, even more upfront about like going after Ronan, or like a scene even between Elizabeth and Ronan at some point, which was, it didn't fit in the episode in that way, but something, or just like her asking like something, maybe then. But yeah, it's probably the lack of Elizabeth. Which she was there. She was, and I think she did what she had to do, like in her role, but yeah, you can't change it.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's fair. I also think a scene between Elizabeth and Teyla could have been really good. Just sort of like talking, maybe like Elizabeth comforting Teyla, being like, "It's okay, we're gonna get him back," or like, "Are you okay? How you doing?" And Teyla been like, "No, I just want to go get him. Like, let's just go quick." Something along those lines, I think. And it also would have helped with the Bechdel test. But I mean,
it wouldn't, because they would have
scene like
still
that
talk
would have been
about
great.
him.
All right.
And like,
you're right. Well, no, Yeah, you're right. I was going to ask about her, but
Yeah.
it would have been nice just for us.
Yeah.
Dare I say, do you guys, if it's blasphemy if I say this is like top 5 Atlantis episodes so far?
Oh no, I don't think it's blasphemy at all.
I was actually thinking the same thing.
I was just thinking about it. I was like, we don't rate them very high that often.
No.
And so the fact that we sort of all agreed like 9.5 and like the 10 range is like kind of crazy. And I feel like, yeah, I think it's like the perfect, damn near perfect episode of TV.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I think it's one of the best episodes, in general, that I wasn't aware as like one of the best, it being one of the best episodes.
Yeah.
No, but I think definitely it's up there with like it's hard to compare stuff to like The Siege or The Storm, but because they are two-parters, or Rising even. Like those are episodes that really stand out. And I was wondering if this episode would have worked as a two-parter, or if it would have gotten too long. I don't know. But definitely it's one, definitely in the top few.
Yay! I'm glad we all agree. I'm glad we are so back.
Yes.
Atlantis is fun again. We've never been more back.
Woo.
With that, be sure to check out everything linked down below. We will link the Fic Rec. You can also vote on our poll for the episode. Do that. Be sure to follow our social medias, also linked down below, so you can keep up when we drop a new episode. And our personal socials are also linked down below if you want to see what we're up to in our day-to-day lives. And with that, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Bye!
All right, you clowns, listen up. I don't often get a chance to say this, so savor it. Good work, boys and girls. Let's go home.